Okay, welcome to another web development video where I'll show you how to make modern websites using HTML5, CSS3, and a little bit of JavaScript. In this series we're going through a program called Webflow. You can find it at webflow.com and sign up for a free account. They give you, under the free account, you get the option to create a couple of different projects before you need to upgrade and pay. So you're able to sign up and use one of your free projects to go through this tutorial just to learn the basics of Webflow and how all the major parts work together to create a real website. So what we're doing is we're following this template here, just an HTML5 template, and we have made our way down to the footer. So now we're looking at how to create this footer. I think we're going to try to use CSS Grid, and Webflow makes it pretty easy to use CSS Grid actually, but you can see the site that we've made here. We don't have all the original assets, so you know, we're doing our best to rough it out. And then after our blog post section, we're going to create our footer section here. So you can see that there's an about, communities, contact information, and opening hours. So we have a 4-column layout, and then each of these has an unordered list underneath, and then we have our copyright information here. So let's get into making our footer. Again, the easiest way that I've found to do this is to create a new section. We're going to leave this as our spacer section, but we go to our body and then we click on section, and it creates a new section for us at the bottom. Let's call this section footer, a very clever name, and we'll use our HTML5's tags in order to make it semantically correct, and then we'll just call this a class of footer. So inside of our footer we have a grid layout, and then we have another small div down here. So let's just because we're creating a maximum width sort of structure to our footer content, let's just take a div, and we'll put a div into our footer, and then we'll call it footer inner, and then the footer inner class is going to have a maximum width of 1200 pixels, and then it's also going to be centered. So if you click this little button after you've given a width or a maximum width to an element, it'll center it, so it essentially sets the margin to auto on either side, which keeps it in the middle of the screen if it gets beyond that maximum width. So we don't want that to be like that. We want it to be footer inner, and then footer inner is going to be 1200 pixels. Okay, now we're set up. So we have our footer, we have our footer inner, and that's going to set our maximum width out here so that it matches along this left side and this right side. And then now we have a 4-column structure which we're going to use with the CSS Grid layout module, I guess is what you call it here. So we just drag it into footer inner, and then now we have not the structure that we want yet, but it's getting there. So let's remove one of these rows, and then let's we can use the plus sign here, or you can use the plus sign here to add more columns. So let's do it both ways. We add a column there, and if you want one more, you add a column there. So now we have 4 equal width columns, and they span our 1200 pixel section, and that's exactly what we have here. And then inside each of those columns I'm going to just drop a div, so we can do we just kind of create a little structure that we want to create. So I'm going to call this footer widget, because in reality it's kind of like a little widgetized area. And then for our footer widget we're going to have a heading, and this is going to be called what? About the order. And let's go ahead and set the size on that text to be 18 maybe. And we're going to set this to normal. Maybe semi-bold. Okay. And then after that, we're going to have an unordered list. Now, working with a list can be a little bit tricky. We did it in the navigation section. So what we want to do is we want to drop our list module right underneath our heading. So now we have a list. We don't want the bullets, so if we look on the settings here, oh, it's showing here. If we look at our settings, we can say no bullets. So that takes that away. It also takes the padding that comes with an unordered list. It takes that away. And that's exactly what we want. If we get in here, we can just start typing something like this. And so that's like saying LI and then just typing something in there. That's not what we want. What we want is actually to put a link inside there, a text link. So we have 4 links: about us, lawyers, blog, contact. And we have a module in here that is a link, so just a regular old text link. So it's telling me that only list items can be directly added inside of a list. So how do we get around that? I think I can add thought I'd done that before. Let's see. What if I copy that? Can I add a link? Okay, that works. So you just add the text in there, highlight it, and then create a link. I believe I can copy and paste that. No, still not going to let me do that, huh? So if I copy that, can I paste it? All right. There's a way, just like in Photoshop, if you hit Alt on a PC and you click and drag, you should be able to copy that item. So now we have 2 items. So the second one is what? Lawyers. And then let's get rid of this. And we'll just do the same thing. We'll just Alt and drag down. Let's see if this will work. Okay. And blog. And that was just Control V. So there are a couple different ways to do this. And contact. Okay. Alright, so now we have our unordered list. Each of these list items needs to look a certain way, and what we want it to look like is light gray and sort of a normal color. Let's do 16, and the color is going to be sort of a light gray color, like that. And then what else do we want it to have? Font weight, maybe light. Okay, let's do that. And then when we click on this, if we create a footer link, so if we create a footer link class, then when we come to each of these, all we have to do is select footer link as a class. Let's see, is that going to work? Oh, for some reason it didn't do it. And then for this one, that's not it. help to be able to type, wouldn't it? So footer dash link okay, you can select that, and let's see, that's a list item, that's a list item, that's a list item, but this one is not a list item. Let's see. So we say list item and then footer link. So let's set this again. I can see that doing it in a particular order or a particular way is really important, because you want to set your classes first, and then this one. So footer link. Alright, let's try this again. So let's delete this item. And now we have this list item attached to the footer link class, and it has all of our styles. So if we Control C, Control V, it creates a new one. And what do we say? Lawyers blog contact. Ah, there we go. So then we've created that, and then we do another Control V and another Control V, and let's see if it adds 2 more items. Okay, so lawyers blog and contact. Okay, and then for each of our list items we want to create some margin. So we're going to create margin top and bottom. So we hold down Alt, and you see that it highlights both the top and bottom, so the opposite sides from one another. And let's just do 16 pixels on the top and 16 pixels on the bottom. Okay, and then let's create yeah, it's really our intersection, isn't it? That's the issue. Okay, so what we can do once we get to this place is we can click on our footer widget, we can hold down Alt and click, and then we should be able to copy, right? No? Let's see. Footer widget, Control C, Control V. That's not it. I've done this before. I know I can move this widget between things. Ah, there we go. I just didn't move it far enough. Okay, so I've copied this over, and in reality you could just Alt and drag and that copies, just like you would in Photoshop or Illustrator, it copies the exact same styles over. So now all we need to do is change our information. So we have communities. And we have support. And then we have, oh, I'm sorry, communities, contact information, opening hours. So communities is support, practice areas, one case is privacy. And we have some information here. So copy that. And copy this phone number. And so this is all just copying and pasting this data. You could also, I guess, theoretically create a collection. That's your footer information or footer data, and then flow that data in to here. And the last one is opening hours. These people probably don't have opening hours, but again, this is just a template. And then I can, you know, if you want to delete one of these, you can. So we have our opening hours, our contact information, about us, and then let's create a little spacing here for our grid. Actually, let's create the spacing on our footer. Remember, on our footer or on our sections, we're giving it I believe 64. So we could say 64, and we can even do 64 or some amount of padding internally. That's not going to help us a lot because we already have so much space here because it's a maximum width. So that's only going to help us if we do if the screen size comes down. Inside of your grid, you can actually determine, let's say we wanted this to be 2 FR. We could determine that so that we get a little bit more space, or we could determine it to be 1.2. So that way we get a little bit more space for our contact information. We can control, let's see, not the child. In our grid, we can control the amount of gap here. So this is our column gap and this is our row gap. So our column gap could be 32 pixels. So that would be like 2 rem of space. Create a little bit more space. And the last part is the copyright down here. So inside of our footer we did the wrong way. So let's just remove this. We should have done padding. So we should have done padding of 64 pixels. There we go. And that gets us pretty much to the same place. And if we do the footer inner, what we want is we want to add another section after our grid. So let's take our div and we want to add a little container after our grid. Is it going to let us? Maybe not. So let's say footer inner and add a div block. Okay. And this is going to be called the copyright. And then inside that, we'll just add a little text block. And the text block is going to have all this stuff in it. And I don't know if you remember that we can actually place icons. So we're getting our icons from the iconic material design font. And so if we go to this website, it will give us the ability to choose our icons. We already have it set up in Webflow. We did that in one of the earlier videos, how we set up an icon font to be used with Webflow. And so we go in here and we can go to our heart, which is listed under favorite. I'll just do Control C. And when I come in here, I should be able to place, I believe this is just a span. Let's see. No. How do I do a span? I thought it was this. Maybe it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we put our little heart in there, just like we have here. We had our little heart, and then all of this, let's see, where's our block? Copyright is going to be center aligned. Where's center? So that's going to be center aligned. It's going to be a color of, let's drop this down to 12, and it's going to be a color of whatever this is. What is this? A1. Let's actually make it a little bit lighter than that. Can we do our white smoke color? Too light. Let's do something like this. and it's the whole thing is going to be Montserrat. That's not right. Yeah. And our italic is going to be this. Okay. That way we get the Montserrat as this font, but we can get the italic when we copied and pasted this in. We get that as the font selection, the font icon selection. And this is actually, what is that? That's the pinkish red color. It's here. Which we can add that. We could add this as a global color, and we could say, boy, that was not what we wanted. We can add this as a global color, and we're just going to call that pink. And then when we want to come over and use that color again, then can we just call that pink? Nope. So this link, just call it footer link. Actually copyright. And then we'll call that color, well, there we go. Okay. And then this needs to be changed again. Okay. This needs to be changed again. Getting real technical down in here. And then this we'll just give some margin to. So 32 pixels. Okay. And I believe this has a top border as well. Like you can see, the border here is a little bit darker than the white smoke. So if we go here and we scroll down to border, we can put a border on the top, and actually it's just what do we have here? So for footer, let's get rid of the border. We'll put border top 1 pixel, white smoke plus a little. So if we remove the lines, is that right? We can show the element edges, or we can hide them. If we look here, we'll definitely know. It looks to me like it's still pulling in a border. So we don't want these. What is that? Does that get rid of it? Okay, that gets rid of it. And then if we come in here and we say border top 1 pixel solid. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a faint darker color there. Separates off our footer. And that's a pretty good job there. A little bit different than down here, but you know, kind of minimize the footer a little bit. We can take the we can easily take the underline off of these by clicking on link and going to no text decoration. You can get rid of that underline. We could control the hover states for each of these by going to hover if we wanted to. Let's not do that. Let's do it this way. And then you can control the hover state to where it's a little bit maybe darker. And let's see if that works. Okay, so you see that when you hover over it, it's a little bit darker than it was. We could put a transition on these, and you put the transition on the regular state, not the hover state. So you go down to transitions and transforms, and really all we want to do is transition the color. And do the font color right here. Let's do 300 milliseconds. And then when we look at it here, there should be a smoother transition. You can see not quite as rough. Okay, that's super subtle. You might want to do something a little bit more than that. But as far as the layout is concerned of our website, I think we have it here. So we can come to the publish button and we can publish it. And it's just publishing it to this Webflow domain. And if you click this open in a new window link, then it opens up your website in a place where you can share. You could share this link with someone, with a client, or someone internally to be able to share with them live, you know, what you've done. So you can see that this is our website. Got our testimonials, our attorneys, and our contact information. We have our blog. It's messing up a little bit there. And then we have our footer. And you can see that when we click on a blog post, it goes to our posts, and then it has a unique URL. Get a little weirdness there. But it has a unique URL that you can go to. And it's just it's a very interesting way of creating a website. This is all an HTML website. This is not a WordPress website. This is not I think the reason it's not showing me the blog post is because I don't have hosting with this, so it's not actually hosting the collections. It's just hosting the static information. I think that's the deal on that. Because when you preview it here, everything shows up right, and you go to it. But this is all being hosted on their, they're hosting the collections so that you can do the development for it. So if you have any questions about this last section, about the footer, you can leave them down in the comment section below. So we've created this last little part. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to work through some of the responsiveness of the website, and I'll show you how the responsive parts of Webflow work. And then you can see how easy it is to create media queries or to do responsive design at different breakpoints. And then just kind of what those tools are. If you need to get caught up, just go back to the first videos in this series and get caught up in the first parts of it, where we were working our way through the navigation and the hero image. And be sure to you might need to go back through the CMS parts to just kind of understand how the collections work and how that dynamic information gets pulled into the website front end. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.